Oh, yo, I completely forgot to vote. I forgot to vote. Go get ready. Okay, so here are my essentials. Backpack, umbrella, mask, hand sanitizer, battery pack, phone charger, snacks, coffee, jacket. It's getting cold out there. Water, phone, headphones. Shit, I forgot to grab my Switch. I'll get that later. Oh, and the lawn chair. I'm probably gonna be sitting for a while. Y'all, these elections have sucked. And I don't know what's gonna happen today when I go vote, so I'm gonna make sure that I bring all of my essentials. So if it rains, if I have to be in line for a really long time and I don't get to eat, I'm gonna make sure I have everything I need. And y'all, remember, like, as long as you show up before the cutoff time, you have the right to vote. They can't turn you away. So again, 1, bring your essentials. 2, stay in line. 3, if you show up before the cutoff time, you have the right to vote. They cannot turn you away.
All right, now for the outfit, I have hat, glasses, earring, jacket, shirt, rings, pants, and shoes.
All right, now I'm ready. Let's go to the polls. Get out there and vote. This is a really big deal for me. I was undocumented in the US for 11 years, and since I became a citizen, this is the first time I get to vote in the presidential election. So honestly, I really don't care how long this takes. I will stand in line. I'm gonna do it for the people who can't do it. I want something better for my community and for the millions of people out there who can't vote. And if you do too, you should get out there and vote.
Votar en persona será muy diferente este año debido al coronavirus. Pero todavía necesitamos votar. No esperes hasta el último día. En muchos lugares puedes votar ahora mismo. Esto es lo que debes saber para salir a votar en persona y mantenerte protegido del COVID. Primer paso. Encuentra tu urna de votación. Si estás registrado para votar, recibirás tu urna designada. Necesitas votar en tu urna designada o en el área designada si es posible. A veces la urna para votar temprano o el día de la elección en noviembre 3 es diferente. No lo compliques y mejor checa tu área designada aquí. Otro consejo. Checa si el lugar de votación ofrece la opción de votar desde tu vehículo. En algunos lugares es una opción y no necesitarías salir de tu vehículo. Segundo paso. Checa si debes traer tu identificación. Esto depende del estado en el que vives. Visita este sitio web para aprender más. Tercer paso. Protégete contra el coronavirus. No importa lo que hayas escuchado, sí es posible votar en persona y mantenerte seguro. Antes de salir de casa, asegúrate de tener lo siguiente: una mascarilla, desinfectante, sea en gel o toallitas, es necesario para que puedas limpiar el equipo de votación. Si es posible, puedes traer guantes desechables. Asegúrate de lavarte las manos antes de llegar a casa o antes de tocar tu cara. Algunos lugares recomiendan que lleves tu propio palito o un cotonete para tocar el equipo o que lleves tu propio lápiz para llenar la papeleta. Ponte zapatos cómodos y abrígate si necesitas esperar en fila. ¿Ya apuntaste estos consejos? Casi estás listo. Aquí hay otros consejos. Primero, sé amable y mantén por lo menos 6 pies de distancia entre ti y otras personas, aunque estés en fila por mucho tiempo. Si quieres evitar una larga fila, trata de llegar lo más temprano posible. Muchas de nuestras comunidades en veces tienen que esperar mucho tiempo. Entonces, si es posible, llévate una silla que sea de dobla y una sombrilla en caso de que llueva. Aunque haya una larga fila, quédate en la línea. Si estás en línea antes de que cierren tu urna de votación, es ley que te tienen que dejar votar. Si alguien te dice que no, inmediatamente llama a la línea de protección en español. Para más información, envía Vota al 877-877. Y no te quedes en casa, asegúrate de votar.
Hey everyone, it's me Sadie with United We Dream Action, here to talk to you about all your voting needs. Today, we're talking about voting in person. Not just voting in person, but voting in person during this pandemic. So let's make sure that you're safe and that you get to the polls. First things first, find out where you need to vote. On election day, you will be assigned a polling place in accordance to where your registered address is. So make sure you know exactly where to vote to avoid any issues. And speaking of Miss Rona, because of the pandemic, a lot of places are now offering curbside voting. Definitely recommend if it's available in your area. Number 2, make sure you know exactly what you need to vote. For example, some places may require different forms of ID. I live in Texas, so I take my driver's license. Find out here what you need for when you need to go vote. Step number 3, safety. We're out here voting because we believe in community, and part of that is keeping yourself and others safe at the polls. Voting is certainly gonna look super different this year because of Miss Rona, but United We Dream Action is here to make sure that not only do you vote, but you vote safely. Safety checklist, it's definitely possible to vote in person, and before you leave your house, make sure you pack a bag of all your essentials. The most important thing you need to take is your mask. Now, let's sanitize your hands. Either take some antibacterial, and if you really want to up it, wear a glove. Not nail friendly, but thank God I have this. Safety while filling out your ballot. If you're doing an electronic machine, you can wipe down the place with your disinfectant wipes. Take a stylus. Some places are also recommending a Q-tip. But if you're filling out a paper ballot, take your own pen. Okay, now that my bag is packed, what do we do when we get to the polls? First things first, safety. Make sure that you stay 6 feet away from everybody else there. But real talk, in a lot of places because of voter suppression, you might have to wait in line for a really long time. Make sure that you know where you're going, if it's going to take a while, and if you really need to, take your own folding chair, whatever. We're gonna vote no matter what. So make sure that you stay in line. If you are in line before the polls close, they have to let you vote. We're going out there, we're gonna be strong, and we're gonna be safe. So see you in November.
Oh, yo, I completely forgot to vote. I forgot to vote. Go get ready.
And my pronouns are he, him, his. And I am so happy to create this space with you all on this incredibly important day because it's election day, right? And this election, I'm actually voting for the second time in a presidential race after having lived undocumented for over 13 years. So we'd love to get to know you too. We want you to share your name, where you're from in the chat or comments if you're comfortable doing so. And if you voted or you know of a friend who did, drop a flower emoji or a plant emoji or someone earthy that shows the deep roots of our movement. And yeah, we're planting the seeds for a better future here. So
Yes, thank you, Tomas. Fill the chat with plants, veggies, our seeds to grow the future and the and vision that we want to see our communities thrive in. Again, I'm Serena. Welcome, welcome to our Here to Stay election live stream. We're so excited to have you join us. I'm a daughter of immigrants. I'm here, and this day is very important to me because my partner is not able to vote and his family is not able to vote. So I'm here doing the work, getting out the vote to those who can. And I serve as the outreach teams manager for United We Dream Action PAC. I use she and her pronouns, and I'll be your co-host along with Tomas. And I'm calling in from Osage, Kickapoo, Wichita, and Comanche land, also known as Oklahoma. So we're so happy you're here again to witness the power we're building in our communities. And when I say we, I mean you and me. I mean our families, our friends, people taking action in the roaring streets and in the quiet of our own homes. We are resilient. We are determined. We may be scared, but we have each other. We are resting, we are smiling, we are immigrants, Latinos, Black people, Brown people, Asians, Pacific Islanders, Muslims, Indigenous people, and we are here to stay. I want you to hear those words one more time. We are here to stay. Today, no matter the noise, the pressure, the news, just remember to take care of yourself. Be gentle and be patient with yourself and others. And let's all take care of each other because our futures are intertwined. Right, Thomas?
yeah, thank you, Serena. So before we continue speaking about the elections, we also need to acknowledge that we are living and voting on indigenous land. And this is land that was taken from indigenous people who continue to be at the forefront of protecting that which is most sacred, our land and our water. I mentioned earlier that I am in Florida. The land that I'm on is the tribe of many people. I live in Seminole land right now. You can learn about the land that you are living on by visiting native-land.ca. I believe that link will be dropped in the chat. That's native-land.ca. Look for that in the chat. And the reason why we share this today is because knowing the land you're living on is an important first step in honoring and preserving the indigenous people and ancestors who were taken from us. So today we honor all those who have passed and were taken from us due to senseless violence, genocide, hate, anti-Blackness, and racism. And now I'd actually like to ask all of us to share in a moment of silent reflection. So yeah, let's take a moment. Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing that in that moment with us. And I'll pass it back to you, Serena.
Thank you, Tomas. So today, we commit to love and unity. Today, we trust leadership of Indigenous, Black, Brown, Asian, Pacific Islander, and Muslim people. And with that said, we believe those closest to the pain are closest to the solutions. Voting is just one way we can take care of each other. And that's what today is all about. So, in the coming weeks, we will have to love and support each other even more. No matter the winner, we will need to band together, even when the going gets tough, so that we can win the racial, economic, and social justice that our communities truly deserve. So, let's take a look at our freedom fighters. Where's everyone at? Tomas, do you know where we're going first?
Oh, there we go. There's Stephanie from Florida. Hey, Stephanie, how are you?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah?
yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. ¿Cómo están?
Amazing. So, yeah, we have people from um, all over the country today that are joining us. Today, you're going to get to hear from our leaders in a number of states, including Florida, Texas, California, Washington, D.C., all over the country.
Yeah, you'll also get to hear an artist's take on the elections. We'll have Aram Hansi Fuentes, a Korean American fiber and performance artist from Chicago, and she'll be sharing some of her art with us. So that's super exciting. You don't want to miss it. She'll talk about her collaborative paintings, Know Your Rights curtains. You heard me correct. Those are Know Your Rights curtains. And she'll even talk about a voting station for all.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm super looking forward to that. And I'm also looking forward to all of our people going to the polls to vote Trump out today, especially millennials and Gen Z that are turning out in record numbers. They're leading the way, they're leading this movement. Because for the last 4 years, immigrant youth and our families have faced just relentless attacks by Trump and Republicans. And it is crystal clear that as long as Trump is in the White House, our communities, immigrant communities, will continue facing family separation, detention, deportation, and death. So we're done with that. We're calling it out.
Yes, we are calling it out. And that's why we created United We Dream Action PAC to defeat Trump, the Republicans, and the dream killers who are doing his bidding. So, through large scale digital and direct voter engagement campaigns in key battleground states, we've empowered immigrant youth to mobilize millions of Latinx youth and first time eligible voters to the polls to defeat Trump Republicans and elect true champions for all immigrants.
That's right. And together with our allies, we are going to protect DACA. We're going to protect TPS recipients or families, and we'll increase protections against deportations for all immigrants. We're talking local, state, and national level because our families deserve justice, and we believe that we will win.
Still, this election process will look different in the past years. Because of the number of mail in ballots and COVID 19 restrictions, we will likely not have results tonight on election day. And that's okay, because we have to ensure that every single vote is counted. And we don't care how long that takes, we're going to wait. Right, Thomas?
Yeah, I'm ready to wait. I want our process to be respected. I want every vote to be counted because that's what democracy is about. So now we're going to hear from, again, the generation that's really driving this fight. And we are going to turn now to Stephanie, who's in Florida, leading the way. So, Stephanie, if you don't mind, do you want to tell us about yourself and how you got involved?
Hello, good morning. Welcome to this space. My name is Stephanie. I was born in Ecuador and I came to the US when I was 12 years old with my family. I first became involved in United We Dream Action in 2019 when we were fighting the racial anti-immigrant SB 168 law.
Great. You want to tell us in Spanish too, Stephanie?
Sí, bueno, me llamo Stephanie, nací en Ecuador y vine acá cuando tenía 12 años y la primera vez que pude tener contacto con esta organización fue cuando estábamos luchando contra la ley SB 168, que es una ley anti-inmigrantes.
Yeah. So you want to tell us what's at stake for your fellow Floridians, our fellow Floridians, and has anything changed for you under this horrible administration?
Creo que las cosas han empeorado para nuestra comunidad, hay más miedo, hay más injusticia y hay mucho, para los indocumentados y las personas inmigrantes en este país, está difícil la situación. Trump no nos apoya, Trump no ha hecho nada por nosotros, solo incita al odio hacia nuestra comunidad y nuestra comunidad es fuerte, nosotros hacemos que este país sea grande. Y algo también importante es el healthcare. Más que nada ahora con el COVID, muchas familias indocumentadas no pueden acceder a esto. ¿Quién sabe cuántos estarán muriendo ahora mismo por el hecho de tener miedo de que los deporten al momento de ir a un healthcare?
Got it. You want to tell us in English too for everybody?
Yes. Healthcare is also not accessible for everyone, especially immigrants. This is super important right now during a global pandemic. In order for everyone to thrive, we need healthcare to be accessible to everyone, including immigrants.
Yeah, thank you so much, Stephanie, for lifting that up. So important. So, with that in mind, what is the number one reason to vote Trump out today?
Well, young people are tired of the lack of empathy that Trump and his Republican enablers have shown for our lives. Whether it is over the 545 children who were separated whose parents cannot be found, or the constant attacks against DACA, or the lackluster response to the dangers of COVID, which has hit my state of Florida especially hard. And also, we need politicians who can hold accountable for our communities. We need politicians who can meet the promises they made before they were elected. Los jóvenes en especial estamos cansados de la falta de empatía de Trump y de sus republicanos. No han hecho nada por esos niños, 545 niños que no tienen familia ahora gracias a la separación de familias que Trump hizo. Siempre con sus ataques hacia DACA. DACA, hay muchas enfermeras, doctores durante esta pandemia que han estado ayudando y son DACA recipients. Trump los ataca, no es justo. Ellos nos han ayudado, le han ayudado, no es justo.
Yeah. So, taking all that in mind, right? You've been leading the way here in Florida, and doing so much amazing work. How has it felt helping voters understand the issues and mobilizing them?
Well, se ha sentido muy poderoso poder haber hecho esto, saber que hay amistades mías que son ciudadanos, poder decirles, mira, tu voto cuenta, tú puedes ayudarnos a nuestra comunidad, tú puedes ser nuestra voz, ya que algunos no podemos votar por ahora, pero si tú eres ciudadano, tienes esa responsabilidad de poder ser nuestra luz, nuestro granito de esperanza más que nada en esta época. Y
Great.
creo que teniendo 17 años y aún no poder votar y con mis amistades que tienen DACA o son indocumentados, somos uno solo, independientemente de nuestro estado aquí migratorio, somos uno solo y podemos luchar y podemos incitar a más personas a que se levanten y voten, no solo en esta elección, en las próximas que vengan, porque es una lucha que jamás termina.
Great. So, what song is powering you through today, and what snack or
Well,
drink, that everyone in your city is probably getting right now before they go out and vote?
well, the song that is powering me through this day is Queen, We Will Rock You. It's such an amazing song, believe me. And I think that in my city, people, before they go to vote, they must be eating a delicious pizza with a Coca Cola or a glass of wine. You never know.
Amazing. Yeah, we are going to rock Trump. We're gonna rock him right out of the White House.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. Thank you for everything you do, for being such an amazing leader. We super appreciate you. Um, and yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Don't remember to vote, people.
Yes. Great. So now we're actually going to hear from another amazing leader from another part of the country. Um, yeah, in from Washington D.C. So we're just waiting for her to join. So just stand by.
I love that we get to hear from our youth who are on the ground, like in the grassroots doing this work. We were just talking about how Stephanie's 17 and she's already doing the work.
No, I know. Amazing, amazing. I wish I would have been
Yeah,
doing work when I was 17.
right? What happened? I have so much hope for this new generation.
Yeah, incredible. Great. So Pia's joining right now.
Hi, Pia.
Hi. Sorry, I have a bagel in my mouth.
We're so excited to have you here.
Yeah. So Pia, thank you again for joining us, for taking the time, for being an amazing leader. Do you want to tell us about yourself and how you got involved?
Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Okay, so as you guys know, my name's Pia, and I've been working with United We Dream since 2016. And I started working right after Trump got elected. And one of my friends who I played on a sports team with, she invited me to go to a meeting because she knew one of the DMV organizers from school. And I went to a first meeting like late on a Tuesday night in downtown DC. And there was only a couple people there, and they started talking about, doing an action about protecting DACA and, advocating for a Clean Dream Act. And me and the girl that invited me decided to start a chapter at our school. And we started planning to do a walkout at our school at the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. I live in Washington, D.C. And we organized this huge walkout. It was schools all across the city, but from our own school, we had over 1,000 people attend. And it was a huge deal. The Washington Post covered it, and Politico covered it, and yeah, so that was the first time I ever worked with United We Dream. It was a very memorable moment for me, and I've been working with them ever since.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds incredible. So what's at stake for folks in DC? What has changed for you and others under this administration, you think?
So there's definitely a lot at stake, not just for immigrants, but for all minority groups, as you know, like the LGBT community, for women, for other people of color. But for immigrants, we've been advocating in Washington, D.C. for a sanctuary city for a while, which, for those of you who don't know, means that the city would no longer collaborate with ICE. So it would help to lower deportations and make immigrants feel more safe in our community and be able to engage in our community and contribute to our community without feeling like their life is on the line every second. And Biden is an advocate for sanctuary cities, and Trump is not. So, not just on a federal level, but also on a local level, voting in your ward, voting for council members and stuff like that. It's very important to vote for people who are advocating for sanctuary cities to make sure that our immigrant communities feel safe here.
Got it. So with all that in mind, what can you tell folks today on this call is the number one reason to get Trump out of office?
Um, there's so many reasons, but I think the biggest reason in regards to immigration, I know personally, I'm not a huge fan of Biden's immigration plan, but it's a huge step forward compared to Trump because the way Trump has handled immigration, he not only has completely criminalized immigrants living in the US, but he has put so many restrictions on legal immigration. He's made it so hard for people to seek asylum here. And, a lot of Republicans refer to Trump as a pro-legal immigration candidate. And it's so hard to label yourself as that when you make pro-legal immigration so difficult. He's put so many restrictions on it. And even though, I know, the issue of immigration, we're not going to vote Biden into office if he wins, and then it's not going to go away. We're going to still have to fight for immigrant rights if he's in office. But it's not going to be criminalized in the same way. And like I said about in reference to sanctuary cities, we want to make sure that immigrants in our communities can continue to contribute to our society and feel safe here without the threat of deportation every day, which is something that Biden is advocating against.
Gotcha. So, and with having had led so many mobilizations and work in your area, in your part of the country, how has it felt helping voters understand these issues and mobilizing people?
Well, it's definitely empowering. I know for me, at least, there's a lot of immigrants in my family, but I don't have any DACA recipients in my family. And it wasn't until I started working with United We Dream where I really got to listen to people's stories. And I think the more you work with, the more you get yourself involved with certain issues, whether it's a personal issue to you or just something that you're interested in, the more close to your heart it gets. And really helping organize these things and bringing people in, especially for my school. Once I helped start a chapter at my school, encouraging other people who it might not be that personal to listen to other people's stories, to get more involved. It makes it, I don't know, just it's really heartwarming to see people take an interest in other people's lives on a very personal level.
It's true. Yeah. So, today's an intense day. So, what song is powering you through today? And what's a snack or drink you think folks in your city are getting before they go vote?
Okay, so right now, before you called me, I was listening to D Savage. I don't know if you know who that is, but he pumps me up pretty much. And I'm actually outside of a voting center right now in Washington D.C. at School Without Walls. And right across from School Without Walls, there is a very popular deli, the GW Deli. And I'm currently eating a BLT from the GW Deli, which a lot of DC residents like to attend. So if you guys are planning on going out and voting at School Without Walls, you can go across the street to the deli and get yourself a bagel with bacon, lettuce, and tomato.
Yeah, I actually lived in DC for a little bit, so I know about that deli VLT life. Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, every vote counts. So if you're in line, stay in line. Get your snack, get your drink, and yeah, make sure you vote.
Hi.
Thank you.
Hey,
Yeah.
thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye. All right, folks. Well, you just heard from two incredible leaders that are driving work in Florida, work in DC, two really important areas. And just shortly, we're going to hear uh, from Texas. In Texas, again, it's a really, really important swing state with a Senate seat at play. It's had incredible voter turnout, record voter turnout. Youth are turning out like crazy in Texas. So yeah, it's just been really exciting to see. And we actually have Norma from Texas, who again another incredible leader that's gonna tell us yeah, what's happening in Texas and a little bit about herself. So Norma, you're on.
Yes, hi everybody. Thank you for tuning in with us today. Today's election day here in Texas. And we're really excited. We had great turnout throughout early voting. Um, but we're going to continue to vote today and hopefully break some more records.
Yes, that's right. So Norma, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved?
Sure. So, again, my name is Norma. I'm a child of immigrants. We came to the United States when I was around 6 years old, because it was dangerous at the time in Mexico. Living here, I didn't really understand, why there was so much difference or why it was complicated to get from Mexico or to the United States. I did witness a lot of my family members get deported. We struggled financially, both here in the US and in Mexico, because we were all trying to, help each other out. And a lot of my friends, I saw them go through very similar things, and I never knew that there was anything we could do to change that. Whenever I was in college, I was fortunate enough to meet a friend who introduced me to United We Dream. I had never been a part of any sort of um, any sort of protest or action. And we actually went to DC to fight for the Dream Act. And even though it was really scary because I had never done anything like that, it was super empowering to be surrounded by people who, hello, Tomas, are you there? Oh,
Yeah, we
okay,
can hear you.
sorry. So it was super empowering to be with people who had similar stories growing up, whose families were mixed and some weren't able to be together, for the holidays, for funerals and things like that. And it was nice coming into a new community, because I had never had anything like that. Whenever we came back from DC, I started getting involved. I met a lot of very meaningful and important people that were also helping out, that were activists, and more things than just immigration, right? I started getting involved in canvassing here in Houston, where we would doing things like canvassing for our current county judge, Lina Hidalgo, who has been a powerhouse throughout this whole pandemic and making sure every single one of our votes get counted. So, you know, being a part of such important work, it's been really inspiring, and I'm glad that I've been able to reach out to other people so that they can do the same.
So do you want to tell us a little bit more in depth what's at stake for folks specifically in Texas? We know a lot. There's been a lot of attacks against immigrants, a lot of things happening in Texas. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
So one of the biggest things that has been going on in Texas for a while now is SB4, the Show Me Your Papers law that passed in 2017. So as we all know, this is a racial profiling law, and we don't want any more of those type of laws to happen, and we want to be able to change that law. You know, we don't want this before in Texas. Along with that, other things that are at stake are our college and state tuition. Along with FAFSA, we also get FAFSA, which is in-state tuition for Texas, and that's also been in danger, not just for residents of Texas, but also for undocumented people who are going to college in Texas. And then locally in Houston, we've been having a lot of movements this year for calling for defunding the police and addressing homelessness. And then more recently, due to the passing of one of our community heroes, Monica Roberts, we are trying to pass the Monica Roberts bill, which will allow people to, go to whatever restroom or bathroom they feel comfortable in. And, Houston is the most diverse city and one of the largest counties in the country. We have people of all sorts of culturally diverse backgrounds, and it's important that we're super inclusive and accepting of everyone. So that's definitely something that's at stake in this election. And every single candidate, it affects any type of loss locally, state. And then so I was also involved in the census work this year, and Texas is huge. It's supposed to be one of the most like Latino diverse populations. So we're supposed to be the majority here in Houston and in Texas. And I think it's important that whoever does get elected is able to represent us and is able to, you know, um, speak out for us when we need it.
Got it. So, you know, we talked a lot about the youth vote in Texas. And we those are the folks that are going to vote Trump out, right? But there's another person in Texas that we are all ready to send packing, retire, not having office anymore, and that's Trump's evil amigo, Senator John Cornyn. So, you want to tell us what's the number one reason we want Cornyn out for good?
So I think one of the biggest reasons we want Cornyn out is because as much as he wants to play and say that he does support immigrants, time and time again he has shown us he has not. Like I said earlier, I got involved in this when we were fighting for the Dream Act, which he himself rejected. His staff didn't want to talk to us. He didn't want to talk to us. So John Cornyn didn't want to talk to us, and he has been rejecting those type of immigration reforms for years, since 10 years before I ever became involved. He only offers to help us out with DACA if we're willing to give him something. So if we're willing to let him take our parents, our family members away, if we're willing to give money to build a border wall. And that's not something that's up for negotiation, it's all of us.
Totally. And taking that into account, how has it felt helping voters understand the issues? That Trump doesn't have their best interest, that Cornyn is an evil amigo. How's it?
So I think it's important that we all know that every single vote counts, each one of them. It's been great to, help out people who have been unsure about voting or have been confused and think that maybe their vote doesn't count. But as we have seen here in Texas, Republicans have been going hard with the voter suppression. Since a few weeks ago, since yesterday, they were trying to throw out over 100,000 ballots. And they lost because there was no reason for them to throw out those ballots. But it shows that even 100,000 votes, those are scaring them, and they want to invalidate us. But that's why it's important that we've been breaking records since day one of early voting, and we're going to continue voting because we know how much it matters. And it's been great helping other people realize that too.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, what song is powering you through today? And what's a snack or drink you think everyone in your city's enjoying before going out to vote?
So one of the songs that I listen to often and I've been listening to especially today is Only the Young by Taylor Swift. She wrote it after Beto lost Texas. Um, because she's never really been a political person, but this was a great loss for all of us. We deserve somebody who actually cares about its people to represent Texas. And we have the power to make that happen. And then something I'm going to eat before I head out to the polls today, Whataburger for sure. And I'm sure most Texans are. We're going to go to Whataburger, we're going to get powered up, and we're going to go out and vote.
Amazing. Yeah, we have some Whataburgers here in Florida too. So, all right, Norma. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing, for letting us know what's happening in Texas, how terrible Cornyn is, and yeah, enjoy Whataburger. And
Thank you, Tomas.
yeah, and just what we want to appreciate all the leaders, Norma, Pia, Stephanie, that are doing like just incredible work across the country in really important areas. And yeah, again, it's like the youth who are going to lead this movement and who are going to get Trump out.
Yes, thank you, Norma. Just share all the appreciation Thomas gave for all these young leaders who are literally changing the world that we live in. So super excited that they're here to join us on this live, and also super excited that they're just out on the streets today, being safe.
Yeah, and making sure that not only people vote, but that there's a massive movement that's going to ensure that every vote is counted and that this election cannot be stolen from us.
That's right. That's right. All right. So we'll be back after a little bit with Aram Hansi Fuentes.
Yes.
My favorite class would have to be math because I'm good with numbers. I'm Teddy. I'm 18 and I go to Gaithersburg High School. My sisters have DACA and Trump wants to deport them. Right now, both my parents are unemployed due to COVID, and my sister's the one paying all the bills. Daniela's a very creative person. She's an artiste, as I would say, and she's very on top of everything. Luz's best qualities is she's not a quitter. She keeps on fighting for what's right. She goes the extra mile. And if it's not enough, she wants to do more. Them not being protected, it's a scary feeling. If DACA were to end, I have a chance of losing my family, and who am I without family? I want voters to know that their vote matters and has the power to protect families like mine. My sisters can't vote to stop Trump, but you and I can.
When I got the news that the DACA program was going to happen, I remember the first person that I thought about was my brother, Jonathan. And I got such a huge sense of relief that he could live without the fear of being deported while going to school and accomplishing his dreams. Voting for the first time after living undocumented in this country gives me a lot of mixed emotions. I feel frustrated and angry that it took so many years for me to be able to have this moment. When casting my vote this November, I'll be thinking about my immigrant parents, my brother Jonathan who has DACA, and the millions of undocumented families that have been impacted by deportation and family separation. My brother Jonathan has DACA and Trump wants to deport him. Jonathan can't vote to stop Trump, but you and I can.
My name is Chris. I was born and raised here in Miami. My grandparents have TPS and Trump wants to deport them. They always want to see me move forward in life and being able to thrive. This country is their home. If they manage to deport my grandparents, I might be homeless. It's just really scary to think about it. This is gonna be the first time that I'll be voting for a presidential election. I have the voice to actually pick the candidate who will make the right decision. And most importantly, pick the candidate who will restore our democracy. Being able to vote is such a privilege because my grandparents made the risk to cross the border for me to have a better future. They can't vote to stop Trump, but you and I can.
My brother has DACA and Trump is trying to deport him. When my brother Sheridan got DACA, it was a significant change for not only my brother, but for my family overall. Sheridan having DACA just meant that there were also possibilities and opportunities for growth and change in the future. This presidential election is going to be significant. I think it's very important that we take this time to evaluate what it means to live in a place where there's constant rejection and to know that you deserve more. When I'm casting my vote, I'll be thinking about my parents and my brother. I am doing it for them. They deserve to be heard. He can't vote to stop Trump, but you and I can.
My favorite class would have to be math, because I'm good with math.
This has been an unprecedented year for all of us. With the pandemic, more and more people are choosing to vote absentee. With the massive amount of mail-in voting, we may not receive a final decision on November 3rd, and that is totally okay. Every single ballot must be counted. Our votes are still safe, but we must wait for our election officials to do their job. So let's wait together and demand every vote be counted. This has been an unprecedented year for all of us. With the pandemic, more and more people are choosing to vote absentee. With the massive amount of mail-in voting, we may not receive a final decision on November 3rd, and that is totally okay. Every single ballot must be counted. Our votes are still safe, but we must wait for our election officials to do their job. So let's wait together and demand every vote be counted.
You hear that? That's Tom Tillis' silence on Trump's disastrous COVID-19 response. It's his silence when Trump destroys our DACA protections. It's his silence when Trump deports young immigrants and separates families in deportation camps in the middle of a pandemic. We're done with it. Tom Tillis wants to silence us and protect Trump. So let's get loud and vote out Tillis and Trump. You hear that? That's Cory Gardner's silence on Trump's disastrous COVID-19 response. It's his silence when Trump destroys our DACA protections. It's his silence when Trump deports young immigrants and separates families in deportation camps in the middle of a pandemic. We're done with it. Cory Gardner wants to silence us and protect Trump. So let's get loud and vote out Gardner and Trump. You hear that? That's Martha McSally's silence on Trump's disastrous COVID-19 response. It's her silence when Trump destroys our DACA protections. It's her silence when Trump deports young immigrants and separates families in deportation camps in the middle of a pandemic. We're done with it. Martha McSally wants to silence us and protect Trump. So let's get loud and vote out Martha McSally and Trump. You hear that? That's John Cornyn's silence on Trump's disastrous COVID-19 response. It's his silence when Trump destroys our DACA protections. It's his silence when Trump deports young immigrants and separates families in deportation camps in the middle of a pandemic. We're done with it. John Cornyn wants to silence us and protect Trump. So let's get loud and vote out Cornyn and Trump. You hear that? That's Tom Tillis' silence on Trump's disastrous COVID-19 response. It's his silence when Trump destroys our DACA protections. It's his silence when Trump deports young immigrants and separates families in deportation camps in the middle of a pandemic. We're done with it. Tom Tillis wants to silence us and protect Trump. So let's get loud and vote out Tillis and Trump. You hear that? That's Cory Gardner's silence on Trump's disastrous COVID-19 response. It's his silence when Trump destroys our DACA protections. It's his silence when Trump deports young immigrants and separates families in deportation camps in the middle of a pandemic. We're done with it. Cory Gardner wants to silence us and protect Trump. So let's get loud and vote out Gardner.
All right. Well, welcome back, everyone. Excited to be back with you all again. So, as we just saw a little earlier, immigrant youth and youth of color are paving the way for a better future for our communities. We heard from some amazing leaders in Florida, in DC, in Texas, that are doing just incredible work organizing and getting out the vote in this election. So for many of us, envisioning that better future starts with a dream. And it starts with a desire to touch, feel, smell, taste, and hear what we have been longing for. And there's no better way to bring those dreams to life than with the rich, artistic, and cultural experiences that energize us and reminds us that we all deserve all our dreams and more. So now Serena is going to be speaking with a very special guest who's using her artwork to honor her heritage and connect with our past, present, and future. So I'll be backstage as Serena leads this portion, but I'm like super excited for this conversation. So take it away, Serena.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tomas. So I, just like Tomas, I'm extremely excited to welcome Aram Hansi Fuentes, who is a fiber and performance artist and an associate professor at the School of Art Institute in Chicago. Her work has been featured at the Pulitzer Arts Foundation, Chicago Cultural Center, Asian Arts Initiative in Philadelphia, the Cheonggyeong Embroidery Museum in Seoul, South Korea, and the Design Museum in London. So everyone here, please just welcome Aram. We're so excited you're here with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. So super cool to have you as a guest on our election day. And I'm really excited for everyone to just hear about your artwork and what you're working on, and especially the really cool project you've been pioneering, which is the official unofficial voting station. So if you're okay with it, we can just dive right in.
Cool. Yeah, I will. I have a presentation. I'm going to skip around on it a little bit, but let me just share that with you all. So yeah, if you can, I really encourage the viewers to go visit officialunofficial.vote. That is the website that we created for this project called the Official Unofficial Voting Stations. So for those who can't legally vote, you'll be able to go there and vote in 8 different languages and also access artist projects and resources. So how I first started the project was asking the question of who can't legally vote in the United States. And I started this project in 2016 because even though I had lived in the US for more than 24 years, I wasn't able to vote. And I wasn't so clear on, who the disenfranchised were. So I guess I can quickly go over the list. So I had to do research, and I was actually pretty surprised that not in, that dominant culture wasn't really asking this question of who can't legally vote, right? And that the research I was doing was actually pretty difficult to find, the numbers and how big this population was. So youth under 18, non-citizens, depending on your state, incarcerated and formerly incarcerated people, right? Residents of U.S. territories, and then again, depending on state laws, if you don't have the IDs that they're requiring, then you can't legally vote, right? And the only sort of number that's concrete that I was able to find was that in 2016, from the Census Bureau, showed that 28.6% of the population were ineligible to vote. So with such a large population, I was so surprised that, this isn't a question being asked, right? And that it isn't a part of dominant narrative of of acknowledging who can't legally vote in the U.S. So I have a little more slides of who can't, going more in detail, and you can access those on that website, official.unofficial.vote. So in 2016, I collaborated with a bunch of artists and activists and organizers all over the world, in U.S. and Mexico predominantly, who created their own voting stations. So this is an example of Cecilia Aguilar Castillo and Eric Fernandez Aldana, who did a station in Tijuana, where you like voted in fake blood for the candidate, voted against the candidates, and then took the souvenir and threw the ballots over the border here, right? And so each of these voting stations look very different in 2016. So this was an installation I did with Lisa Holler-Baggison and Sadie Woods at the Jane Addams Hull House Museum. And on election day, for those who can't legally vote, we are silent, right? We're invisible. And so in 2016, taking up as much space as possible, right? With celebrations and protest and events that were making us visible, right? And so with that project in 2016, and this is what the ballot looked like in 2016. So I am voting here because, and you see on the left, I am a kid, and on the right, because I was given the opportunity. So in 2020, I created 50 of these voting kits for the disenfranchised, and where anyone can request these kits, and all 50 are out there in the world. So these kits have stickers and wristbands for people who can't legally vote, and a playlist of music by Chicago artists, and infographics sharing who can't legally vote, posters by William Estrada in 8 different languages, vote for our future, for children, for our community, and for those who can't. Banners are part of it. And then and so like I said, 50 are out there, and so they take on different forms. So there's some installations out there, some in public spaces, pop-up events, right? And different artists are taking them on. So this is Carol Zoe in LA doing a motorcycle voting station, right? For people who can't legally vote. And then, like I mentioned, there's a website for it. And so you could visit officialunofficial.vote, and you can vote in 8 different languages for candidates. You could write in your own candidates, vote on other people's writing candidates, vote. You could vote on issues, create your own issues, vote on other people's issues. And then on the ACT page, there's a bunch of the artist projects like I showed you, like the posters you could download and print, and wristbands, and the stickers. We turn them into Instagram filters, so you can access that. And you could view other people's votes and responses as well on this website. So this is, I am voting here because the system is broken.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, that was so inspiring. And I just can't, art and elections and social justice just definitely is a combination that we need to see more often in movement spaces. So I just really appreciate you sharing all of that with us. And I see that you might be in your studio or something. So I think it would be even more amazing if we could actually see or hear from you on what your process for creating this art looks like.
Yeah. So, how I often start my projects is, talking about how I started the voting stations was asking that question, right? That I was of who can't legally vote in the United States, right? So sort of asking questions that, dominant culture doesn't ask very often, right? And so in art, I'm able to do that. And in art, that's usually the starting point for me. And also the starting point is, in 2016, it really happened through, me hanging out with some friends and being like, I really want to vote. How do I have this in the world, right? And I think art is so powerful because like Thomas mentioned, it's being able to create things that you want to see in the world, right? And then having that experience in terms of the senses, in terms of the experiences, right? So to be able to say, wait, the national rhetoric around voting is that it's available to all people, right? And that democracy is available to everybody, but that's definitely not true. So, I want to create a project where everyone can vote, and so that is how I start the projects. And then, as you could see, just I'm an extrovert, I'm a people person, so doing a bunch of collaborations. And also, collaborations are so important for me because I see them as sort of coalition building, right? In terms of, yeah, collaborating with people who have access and whose expertise is in different things, such as like working with prison abolitionists to send official unofficial ballots into prisons in Illinois, right? And so collaborations are really important for me.
Absolutely. I love that you said, made that analogy of artists collaborations to coalition building. I think that's something that's like super concrete and tangible, where people can see the impact that art can have, on community building and movement building. And yeah, just everything you shared, it just resonates so much for me and for youth who can't vote but are actually doing the work to get the vote out. Like we have currently people doing GOTV outreach as we speak, and have been doing it for months. So I have two other questions actually. So thank you so much for your thoughtful answers so far. But what are some things that artists can do so that their art doesn't create unintentional harm or go against the vision of the collective?
Yeah, I mean that's a big question and pretty complicated, and yeah, on a sort of individual based, it needs to be sort of evaluated case by case. But some things I can say is like, I think that art is so powerful as a way of storytelling, right? And so if you're telling your own story, right, through your own lived experiences, then that is about your experience, right? So it doesn't harm people, or it doesn't, and obviously that's like the most genuine way of storytelling, right, is like telling your own right? And then, and through that it's so powerful in terms of like then also being able to like push back against um how dominant culture and how whiteness defines marginalized communities, right? And I also think that um yeah, sort of focusing, or for me how I do it is focusing, like I said, on creating things that I want to see in the world, that gives you know non-citizen immigrant groups of color, which is the community I'm most interested in working with, access to things like voting, or being able to participate in you know civically, right? So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that response. So now we will just switch gears slightly with my last question. And although art may be a way of self-care for you, what are other ways that you take care of yourself, and what makes you smile?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, one thing is I love being an artist, and I think definitely, like I said, like collaborations are also something that just keeps me going and keeps me, having faith and excited. And but beyond that, I have a 5-year-old, so spending time with them is really amazing. And um I love bad TV, so
Okay, well now you have to tell us what you're watching right now.
yeah, I've been watching some bad Korean dramas, unfortunately. So
Oh, I know a lot of people that do. I'm watching one of them, several. Very addictive.
Exactly.
They're very deep. They get deep. I don't know. Well, is there anything else you would like to share before we before we move on to the last questions?
No, I think this is good. Thank you.
So now, everything about art and community building and movement building has been really enlightening. But what are ways? What is your thinking and your take on the election right now? Because it's obviously the big day. Um, what is the number one reason people should vote Trump out?
I mean, you know, it's can I do I only have to have one reason? But
No.
I mean, we've we've seen the last 4 years, right? And in particular, like I said, like with who I am as an immigrant, with my family and friends and neighbors who, predominantly are, like I said, non-citizen immigrant groups of color, like, you know, the last 4 years have been so damaging in terms of immigration policy and what's happening at the border, and so I think definitely that there's so much at stake, and there's so much that's about just basic human rights and humanity, right? Like, we've seen the last 4 years of Trump enacting policies, and not just policies, right? Like treating immigrants as if we're not even human. And he doesn't just do that to this group, right? He does that all across the board, right? In terms of like how he incites violence against, Black Lives Matter and protests that are happening. And it's just so toxic and damaging. And I'm just hoping that the next 4 years doesn't look like that again.
Yes, yes. And that's why we are out on the streets today and on the phones today, for like we have been for the past month. So I guess the last question for you is for all the young artists out there too, young immigrant artists. Um, how do we make sense of this election, of today, of all of this, whatever comes after today? How do we make sense of it through art? How can we heal and use art to create the transformative change that we wish to see?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. It's undeniable that art, like you said, is a pathway to healing, right? And so I think, especially in this moment, it's so important for us to make art in our everyday, and you know and whether your art ends up being political or not, I think the act of creating and making is really important and really healing, right? And so I think that's really important. And then obviously, if you want to make it political and show it and share your artwork, it is such a powerful way, like I said, to share your stories, to imagine different worlds and futures, and art is the space where you could do a lot of that, right? It is a space where at its best it can function, outside, for the most part, I would say. Sometimes in terms of, you can really talk back to power through art. You could just like create different worlds through art. And so, you know my advice is make some art today. And especially with like how much anxiety there is around today, and who knows for how many more days afterwards, right? To be just like helping you get through that anxiety through doodling or creating art, I think is really, it's really helpful and productive.
Yeah, no, thank you. That inspired me to just go grab a pencil and some paper. Thank you so much for that advice.
And also, one thing I want to mention is on that website, officialunofficial.vote, on the ACT page, if you go to, me and a different artist, William Estrada, created different posters and curriculum around art. And so he has a couple YouTube videos of sort of walking you through the process of making art. But there's also black and white posters that are meant to be coloring sheets, right? So you
Yes.
can download those and start coloring them.
Beautiful. I definitely will take you up on that. I have my crayons as well. So thank you so much again. It's amazing to have this space with you and on this day, and just definitely need to continue these conversations with the wider community. So to all our members watching, we hope you continue just creating art, just creating in general for healing, joy, and resistance. And together we'll create a culture that honors the dignity and the humanity of each and every one of us. So thank you, for being someone who reflects all of that. And we'll see you out on the streets.
Yep. See you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Aram. All right. That was so inspiring. Hey, Tomas. Welcome back.
Hey, Serena, thank you for having me back, and yeah, for that really amazing conversation. I was listening, and yeah, it was really really amazing. So now we're gonna actually hand it over to Sadie from our digital team, that's gonna talk to us about disinformation, because there's been a lot of disinformation happening in our community, a lot of yeah, people trying to mislead our folks. So it's really, really important conversation that we're about to have. Oh, actually, before we do, because Sadie still needs to join, we're actually going to take another break where we'll watch more of our political PAC advertisements. So we'll be right back with Sadie. But tune in because it's a really important conversation.
Oh, yo, I completely forgot to vote. I forgot to vote. Go get ready. Okay, so here are my essentials. Backpack, umbrella, mask, hand sanitizer, battery pack, phone charger, snacks, coffee, jacket. It's getting cold out there. Water, phone, headphones. Shit, I forgot to grab my Switch. I'll get that later. Oh, and the lawn chair. I'm probably gonna be sitting for a while. Y'all, these elections have sucked. And I don't know what's gonna happen today when I go vote, so I'm gonna make sure that I bring all of my essentials. So if it rains, if I have to be in line for a really long time and I don't get to eat, I'm gonna make sure I have everything I need. And y'all, remember, like, as long as you show up before the cutoff time, you have the right to vote. They can't turn you away. So again, 1, bring your essentials. 2, stay in line. 3, if you show up before the cutoff time, you have the right to vote. They cannot turn you away.
All right, now for the outfit, I have hat, glasses, earring, jacket, shirt, rings, pants, and shoes.
All right, now I'm ready. Let's go to the polls. Get out there and vote. This is a really big deal for me. I was undocumented in the US for 11 years, and since I became a citizen, this is the first time I get to vote in the presidential election. So honestly, I really don't care how long this takes. I will stand in line. I'm gonna do it for the people who can't do it. I want something better for my community and for the millions of people out there who can't vote. And if you do too, you should get out there and vote.
Votar en persona será muy diferente este año debido al coronavirus. Pero todavía necesitamos votar. No esperes hasta el último día. En muchos lugares puedes votar ahora mismo. Esto es lo que debes saber para salir a votar en persona y mantenerte protegido del COVID. Primer paso. Encuentra tu urna de votación. Si estás registrado para votar, recibirás tu urna designada. Necesitas votar en tu urna designada o en el área designada si es posible. A veces la urna para votar temprano o el día de la elección en noviembre 3 es diferente. No lo compliques y mejor checa tu área designada aquí. Otro consejo. Checa si el lugar de votación ofrece la opción de votar desde tu vehículo. En algunos lugares es una opción. y no necesitarías salir de tu vehículo. Segundo paso, checa si debes traer tu identificación. Esto depende del estado en el que vives. Visita este sitio web para aprender más. Tercer paso, protégete contra el coronavirus. No importa lo que hayas escuchado, sí es posible votar en persona y mantenerte seguro. Antes de salir de casa, asegúrate de tener lo siguiente: una mascarilla, desinfectante, sea en gel o toallitas, es necesario para que puedas limpiar el equipo de votación. Si es posible, puedes traer guantes desechables. Asegúrate de lavarte las manos antes de llegar a casa o antes de tocar tu cara. Algunos lugares recomiendan que lleves tu propio palito o un cotonete para tocar el equipo, o que lleves tu propio lápiz para llenar la papeleta. Ponte zapatos cómodos y abrígate si necesitas esperar en fila. ¿Ya apuntaste estos consejos? Casi estás listo. Aquí hay otros consejos. Primero, sé amable y mantén por lo menos 6 pies de distancia entre ti y otras personas, aunque estés en fila por mucho tiempo. Si quieres evitar una larga fila, trata de llegar lo más temprano posible. Muchas de nuestras comunidades en veces tienen que esperar mucho tiempo. Entonces, si es posible, llévate una silla que sea de dobla y una sombrilla en caso de que llueva. Aunque haya una larga fila, quédate en la línea. Si estás en línea antes de que cierren tu urna de votación, es ley que te tienen que dejar votar. Si alguien te dice que no, inmediatamente llama a la línea de protección en español. Para más información, envía B-Vota al 877-877. Y no te quedes en casa, asegúrate de votar.
Hey everyone, it's me Sadie with United We Dream Action, here to talk to you about all your voting needs. Today, we're talking about voting in person. Not just voting in person, but voting in person during this pandemic. So let's make sure that you're safe and that you get to the polls. First things first, find out where you need to vote. On election day, you will be assigned a polling place in accordance to where your registered address is. So make sure you know exactly where to vote to avoid any issues. And speaking of Miss Rona, because of the pandemic, a lot of places are now offering curbside voting. Definitely recommend if it's available in your area. Number 2, make sure you know exactly what you need to vote. For example, some places may require different forms of ID. I live in Texas, so I take my driver's license. Find out here what you need for when you need to go vote. Step number 3, safety. We're out here voting because we believe in community, and part of that is keeping yourself and others safe at the polls. Voting is certainly gonna look super different this year because of Miss Rona, but United We Dream Action is here to make sure that not only do you vote, but you vote safely. Safety checklist, it's definitely possible to vote in person, and before you leave your house, make sure you pack a bag of all your essentials. The most important thing you need to take is your mask. Now, let's sanitize your hands. Either take some antibacterial, and if you really want to up it, wear a glove. Not nail friendly, but thank God I have this. Safety while filling out your ballot. If you're doing an electronic machine, you can wipe down the place with your disinfectant wipes. Take a stylus. Some places are also recommending a Q-tip. But if you're filling out a paper ballot, take your own pen. Okay, now that my bag is packed, what do we do when we get to the polls? First things first, safety. Make sure that you stay 6 feet away from everybody else there. But real talk, in a really long time. Make sure that you know where you're going, if it's going to take a while, and if you really need to, take your own folding chair, whatever. We're gonna vote no matter what. So make sure that you stay in line. If you are in line before the polls close, they have to let you vote. We're going out there, we're gonna be strong, and we're gonna be safe. So see you in November.
Oh, yo, I completely forgot to vote.
This has been an unprecedented year for all of us. With the pandemic, more and more people are choosing to vote absentee. With the massive amount of mail-in voting, we may not receive a final decision on November 3rd, and that is totally okay. Every single ballot must be counted. Our votes are still safe, but we must wait for our election officials to do their job. So let's wait together and demand every vote be counted. This has been an unprecedented year for all of us. With the pandemic, more and more people are choosing to vote absentee. With the massive amount of mail-in voting, we may not receive a final decision on November 3rd, and that is totally okay. Every single ballot must be counted. Our votes are still safe, but we must wait for our election officials to do their job. So let's wait together and demand every vote be counted.
My favorite class would have to be math, because I'm good with numbers. I'm Teddy, I'm 18, and I go to Gaithersburg High School. My sisters have DACA, and Trump wants to deport them. Right now, both my parents are unemployed due to COVID, and my sister's the one paying all the bills. Daniela's a very creative person. She's an artiste, as I would say, and she's very on top of everything. Luz's best qualities is she's not a quitter. She keeps on fighting for what's right. She goes the extra mile. And if it's not enough, she wants to do more. Them not being protected, it's a scary feeling. If DACA were to end, I have a chance of losing my family, and who am I without family? I want voters to know that their vote matters and has the power to protect families like mine. My sisters can't vote to stop Trump, but you and I can.
When I got the news that the DACA program was going to happen, I remember the first person that I thought about was my brother, Jonathan. And I got such a huge sense of relief that he could live without the fear of being deported while going to school and accomplishing his dreams. Voting for the first time after living undocumented in this country gives me a lot of mixed emotions. I feel frustrated and angry that it took so many years for me to be able to have this moment. When casting my vote this November, I'll be thinking about my immigrant parents, my brother Jonathan who has DACA, and the millions of undocumented families that have been impacted by deportation and family separation. My brother Jonathan has DACA and Trump wants to deport him. Jonathan can't vote to stop Trump, but you and I can.
My name is Chris. I was born and raised here in Miami. My grandparents have TPS and Trump wants to deport them. They always wanted to see me move forward in life and being able to drive. This country is their home. If they manage to deport my grandparents, I might be homeless. It's just really scary to think about it. This is going to be the first time that I'll be voting for a presidential election. I have the voice to actually pick the candidate who will make the right decision. And most importantly, pick the candidate who will restore our democracy. Being able to vote is such a privilege because my grandparents made the risk to cross the border for me to have a better future. They can't vote to stop Trump, but you and I can.
My brother has DACA and Trump is trying to deport him. When my brother Sheridan got DACA, it was a significant change for not only my brother, but for my family overall. Sheridan having DACA just meant that there were also possibilities and opportunities for growth and change in the future. This presidential election is going to be significant. I think it's very important that we take this time to evaluate what it means to live in a place where there's constant rejection and to know that you deserve more. When I'm casting my vote, I'll be thinking about my parents' and my brother, I am doing it for them. They deserve to be heard. He can't vote to stop Trump, but you and I can.
My favorite class would have to be math because I'm good with numbers. I'm Teddy. I'm 18 and I go to Gaithersburg High School. My sisters have DACA and Trump wants to deport them. Right now, both my parents are unemployed due to COVID, and my sister's the one paying all the bills. Danielle is a very creative person. She's an art teacher.
As I was saying before, right now we are going to kick it over to Sadie from our digital team, who's going to talk to us about disinformation and everything that's going on regarding all these efforts to mislead our community. Do you want to take it away, Sadie?
Hi everyone, my name is Sadie Hernandez. I am from the beautiful, amazing, iconic, great state of Texas. I'm very excited to do another election cycle, but especially this time with the immigrant community, people who are allies to the immigrant community. But with all of that comes a lot of mess online. I am the digital community content coordinator, so I spend a lot of time on our social medias. And what United We Dream Action PAC has realized this year is that there's a lot of disinformation. So Megna and I have been doing a lot of work with our community to combat the disinformation that was meant to harm us. So before we kick this off, just want to start this off by saying disinformation impacts everybody, whether you're someone who is online casually, whether you are an academic with a PhD, we can all fall for disinformation. So to kind of set the mood, I can start off with my disinformation story about a time that I fell for disinformation, but in a very casual way. But it just kind of shows you how our community is being impacted on all fronts. And so my disinfo story is kind of recent, kind of embarrassing because it's kind of thirsty, but not. So my disinfo story was during the height of the protests happening this summer. And I don't know if y'all saw it, but there was this giant beautiful man who was supposedly this Antifa guy that was helping people out. Turned out to be a fake story, but I was one of the girls who retweeted and was like, oh hey, who's this? But yeah, it can be as something as basic as that, or something as huge and violent and snowballing as QAnon. There's so many levels, so many layers to disinformation, and we're living in this new world of technology. So we're all learning together, and luckily Megna is here to guide the way. So I'll let her introduce herself because, of course.
So yeah, I've heard that story like 3 times and it still makes me laugh every single time. You're like, yeah, I fell for disinformation campaign because it was a thirst trap. My name's Megna. It's such a pleasure to be with y'all today. I know we're super excited at United We Dream Action, and I've been working so hard for this day. I actually am pretty new to this organization. The 2016 elections, I was actually working at Facebook, which is part of why I'm here today. And just realizing the way that we share information on social media and the internet really impacts a lot of our real lives outside of our computers, as we can see today and we've seen for the past 4 years. And I, in the same spirit as Sadie, will share my own disinformation story. Honestly, I have so many. I think, to your point, Sadie, we all are constantly getting trapped in a lot of these campaigns because that's the point. It's very easy to fall into them. But one of my worst ones was reposting a lot of the things. I don't know if y'all remember, but there was the stories about Wayfair selling children as cabinets, and I totally reposted that on my Instagram and realized probably the next day, so it was fully up there, and then I realized, wow, this is part of a larger conspiracy theory that is going around, and yeah, let's take it down.
Oof. Well, we've all been there. Again, if you're watching, don't feel ashamed. It doesn't mean anything about you as a person. What it means is that there are a lot of bad actors out there, specifically targeting especially Black and Brown communities. And United We Dream Action Pack is, a community of people of color, people with mixed status families, which is why when we talk about voting, it's not just about going out to the voting booth. It's not just about like the policies and things, but it's where are you getting your information? Because if you're trying to go look out to vote and you get the wrong link and you end up being ineligible because of something ridiculous, like that is them winning. And so, can you tell us a little bit about what disinformation is? Like, it's like a new buzzword, and I hear it everywhere, and so many people are talking about it. But like, for someone who's never heard of disinformation, like, what is the baseline?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Sadie. And yeah, I've noticed it's in every single article out there about the election because it's played a huge role in the way that this election has gone and the way the campaigning has happened. But yeah, what is disinformation? So, disinformation is particularly harmful information that's created by bad actors, specifically to manipulate a group of people and their actions, emotions, thoughts, abilities. And the important thing I want to call out here is there's actually a difference between disinformation and misinformation. So your uncle in the WhatsApp, you're sending like whatever memes or things that are fake news. If you've heard maybe of the pandemic video or certain conspiracy theories, that's misinformation. And what we're seeing a lot of is people right now, there's obviously so much confusing things happening. There's so much change this year with the pandemic, with the uprising, so much uncertainty that everyone's looking for the truth, what's actually happening. And that's where we really fall into this idea of misinformation, where we're all looking to share the truth, but actually what we're doing is spreading the disinformation. And that's in a whole intentional campaign created by bad actors, really trying to manipulate particularly communities of color and particularly Black and Latinx communities.
Oof, yeah, I have seen so many like wild posts about Corona, and the way that it's really impacted people. I am from a border town, so I have really seen what has been going on and how impactful it was in a negative way to a lot of people because, a big part of disinformation is, not only just like white supremacy, capitalism, and all of those things that we're trying to dismantle. And a lot of that is like really playing into today. And today is a peak day with the election and all of that stuff going on. And so I really wanted to just talk about like why it's so important, like why they're trying to take away our right to vote. They're trying to confuse us. They're trying to, put us in situations where we're complacent so that way they can win. We cannot let them win. There are so many ways to stop spreading misinformation, like just basic things. Like if you see something online that's wild, you don't have to repeat what they're saying. Just say, hey, news is going around about coronavirus cures. It's not real. Let's wait for the CDC to say something versus they're saying XYZ. And this is, so many things can be taken out of context if you're sharing stuff online. Like a meme is not the place to get your number one medical advice. There are so many great places like beautiful organizations like United We Dream Action Pack and a lot of our partners who are putting out factual information about your voting rights. Um, so always check your sources. There are so many just easy, basic things like, instead of the 10 seconds it takes you to retweet something, spend an extra 10 seconds trying to see if where the source was. But there are so many ways to, stop the spread of misinformation on your own. But there's also things that we have to do to talk to our communities about spreading misinformation. When you see your tia sharing something that is wild, don't call her out on the Facebook comments and like try to get some likes. Like just message her directly and say, hey, I know that you're worried about the pandemic, but this is not true. Here's why. Talking about disinformation, misinformation with empathy and coming from a place of openness and understanding. And it's just something that really cannot, like, we cannot let it divide our community, point blank. That's it. So it's just critical because our communities are so vulnerable in so many aspects and we're empowered. This is our internet. We're reclaiming the web. So Megna, you're the expert here. Like I gave some like basic tips, but if you have anything more specific and factual, let us know.
I'm like, I'm the expert, Sadie. Come through. No, I just want to emphasize 2 points that you said. One, this is like a very tense time. I know a lot of my community, my friends, a lot of people are going through a lot of division within their families. And I think it's important to know, particularly within the Latinx and Spanish speaking community, that there's a lot of people who are targeting our communities, people of color, to try to drive a wedge and try to manipulate people into believing things. So it's important to come in, as you said, Sadie, with the empathy for how to react to all of these things. And I think another thing I really want to emphasize is, particularly today, particularly this week, you're going to see things that are going to be kind of crazy. And your instant reaction, as Sadie said, like you just want to hit that repost, that retweet, and you want to uplift it. I like, if you take away one thing from this conversation, pause. Like if you get emotional when you see something on social media, take a breath, think about why people wrote that, what do they want you to repost, why are they creating that narrative, and just really reshare with a purpose.
With a purpose. Yes, thank you so much, Megna. And we're not just out here telling you what to do. Don't worry, we're here to help guide everyone. Like, we're not all misinformation, disinformation experts like Megna. I've never worked at Facebook. Just kidding. But but again, like this is a serious issue. This is something that is hurting our communities, and it's not just around the election, but it's definitely going to haunt us and keep haunting us and following us everywhere. So we have so many resources on our pages. You can follow us at United We Dream Action, UWD Action on Twitter, Action UWD on Instagram. But we also have specific things about disinformation. Our project is called Reclaim the Web. We are reclaiming our spaces online just as we are in person. You can join our WhatsApp. You can follow the Reclaim the Web Instagram page. And all you have to do is take out your phone, take it out. Took you 2 seconds, took me 2 seconds. And it's what you're going to do. You're going to text disinfo to 877 877. And we can add you to our WhatsApp group because we're out here sharing correct factual information and making them look super cute and super fun so you can share them with your family. We have 2 types of groups. We have one for the youth, so y'all can share with your friends, have a good laugh, think about Bad Bunny. And then we have one that's for your friends and your family. So something more wholesome, more family appropriate. You know, maybe Bad Bunny at the beach is not something that your mom wants to see, but your friends do. But yeah, definitely. So again, text disinfo to 877 877. Well, that's all for me today. Go out and vote. I voted, and I'm going to go share some real information with all these tips.
Thanks so much, Sadie. Well said. I have nothing to add.
I was on mute. I did the boomer thing. But yeah, thank you so much, Sadie and Megna, for joining us, for giving us all these amazing tips on how to combat disinformation, because this is such a serious issue and there's so many bad actors that are trying to lead our communities astray. So we have to fight back and make sure our communities are informed. So now we're gonna go back and hear from, oh yeah, bye y'all. Thank you. We're going to hear from more incredible UWDA PAC leaders from across the country. And we're actually going to hear from someone in California that is, again, a huge state, really important state, and someone who's really been leading the work there and making things happen. So I want to introduce Yasmin. And do you want to tell us about yourself and how you got involved? Un poco de tu historia y cómo te involucraste?
Yeah, of course. Hi, welcome, or hi, everyone. My name is Yasmin, pronouns she, her, hers, ella, and I am calling from the Central Valley here in California. So the way I got involved with United We Dream and organizing as a whole, I actually got involved maybe about 3 years ago. My organizing actually started with the farm worker movement. So, as a daughter of immigrants, daughter of farm worker parents, it was something that was very personal to me. I remember seeing my parents working their long hours, coming back home covered in dirt, and all they're wanting was myself and my brother to have a better life. And I always remember that. I took that with me, and I feel like I was lucky enough to find my path, to see the power of organizing and making sure things get done. I remember doing personal one on one visits, to community members, learning what exactly they needed, and seeing that transformation between the people that I was able to connect with, transforming that fear, the unknown, into their own like political power and changing their community as a whole. Thinking back, the dream that my parents had of having better lives for myself and my brother, and turning it back into giving into my community. That's kind of how I got started.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing a little bit about your story. So, in terms of California, what's at stake in this election, and what has changed for you and your loved ones, your community under this administration?
Okay, yeah. So we know California isn't a battleground state like a lot of other places, but we definitely know that every single vote matters. From the local elections to the federal election results, we know that the votes have an impact on our community. California is sometimes seen as a forefront of social justice and human rights. Other states looking for guidance, looking for change to implement in their own communities, and also for demanding local, state, and federal protection for our immigrant communities. Um, we definitely know, the power of voting and how important it is. And I think this year, just seeing Texas and Florida on the brink of potentially turning blue is very exciting. For myself here in California, the work that we're doing here in the Central Valley is ongoing. Just thinking back in 2018, when I did my first campaign with United We Dream Action, making sure that we elected a leader that would keep immigrants in mind, turning a district that has been red into blue just because of our community and our youth getting together, just shows us, that we have to continue to move forward, in every possible way.
So, living in the Central Valley, what do you think is the number one reason to vote for Josh Harder for Congress? And what is the number one reason to vote Trump out of office? Y voy a repetir la pregunta en español. ¿Cuál es la razón número uno por la que deberíamos votar por Josh Harder como congresista? ¿Y cuál es la razón número uno para sacar a Trump de la Casa Blanca?
Okay. I'll do it in English first and then Spanish. So for English, definitely voting for Josh Harder. So in 2018, that was the campaign that we worked on. We elected Congressman Harder for the first time, again, changing the district from red to blue. And he has been a leader in making sure that our immigrant community's voices are heard in Washington, D.C. Before that, there was no support in our community. And we know that we need to continue to push forward these candidates that have our people in mind. And that's why we're voting for them. So, la razón número uno para votar para Josh Harder es que él le ayudamos con United We Dream Action en el 2018. Cambiamos el distrito de rojo a azul, y sabemos que él es un líder para nuestra comunidad inmigrante, para asegurarnos que nos tenga en mente en las decisiones que están pasando en Washington, D.C., que antes no estaba pasando, especialmente en el Valle Central, donde la mayoría son latinos, gente inmigrante, pero no estaban siendo representados en nuestro distrito. And then for the question for Trump, of course, we've seen over the last 3 years the hate, the division that it has impacted our community, the lack of responsibility that the administration has caused to our people. In California, we've seen hundreds of families losing their homes by fires, wildfires, and an administration that downplays climate change. We've also seen the lack of leadership at a federal level to protect our vulnerable communities during a global pandemic, and the constant attacks on our communities, immigrant communities, by revoking DACA, creating loops with public charge, for example, and increasing fines for people that just want to better their lives. So there's I guess, three reasons that I could think of the top of my head um, that our community has to remember to vote Trump out.
Awesome. Thank you, Yasmin, for your answers. Um, how did it feel helping voters actually understand the issues and everything that's at stake in the Valley during voter outreach?
I was fortunate enough to be leading some of the calls and leading some of our volunteers. And it was actually very surprising. We get the usual hangups, wrong numbers, people that don't want to talk to us. But when we actually got the opportunity to talk to these voters, to engage with them and actually listen to what they need, providing them, for example, like their polling location, deadline reminders, they really were interested in listening and getting as much information as they wanted, getting information on who were these leaders that would be champion for our immigrant communities. It was literally one call could make a difference between someone going out to vote early, going to vote on November 3rd, and taking their families and friends as well. So I think that was the best part with everything going on, just still being able to connect to our voters and our community.
Yes, no, that's amazing. That's the work that we have to do to connect with our people and to rebuild and activate the sleeping electorate, as we could say.
Yes.
Thank you, Jasmine. So last question, we can do in English and then after I can ask in Spanish, but what song is powering you through today? And then what's the drink or snack that everyone's getting before they go vote right now?
For me, I don't have a song, but I have like my cumbia playlist playing in the background to, keep me happy and motivated, like kind of dance the anxiety away. So that's what I have. And for snack, I think people are going to go out and get their tacos. It's Taco Tuesday on election day, so I definitely see that happening. So en español, en español, no tengo una canción, pero tengo como mi playlist de cumbias que voy a estar escuchando. Siempre me pone feliz el quiero bailar y así no me siento tan estresada por este día. Pero también creo que para el snack o algo que van a comer todos después de la elección, a lo mejor agarrar unos tacos. Aquí en California los pueden encontrar donde quiera. So, vayan a votar y luego vayan a agarrar sus tacos.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Jasmine. Really appreciate you all. Really appreciate the work that you're doing. And yeah, now I want tacos. So I'll try to find some in Miami. We don't have as good as California though. All right. So with that, we are now reaching the end of our program. And for our final speaker, we're actually going to have Greisa Martinez Rosas, the executive director of UWDA Action. So we are, extremely excited to have her here and hear from her amazing words. She's just an incredible and inspiring speaker and our fearless leader. Yeah. She'll be joining us very shortly. Oh, here we have Greisa. Thank you for joining us, Greisa. We're super excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited. I'm ready. I'm pumped up. I've been watching y'all all morning, and it's been so great. Tomas and Serena, people might be seeing you tonight, but they should know all of the work that you all have done over the last months to make sure that our people are making phone banks, that people are calling. We just want to know that, like, we see you, Serena, we see you, Tomas, and all of our team that's held it down for the last year. So muchas gracias. Thank you so much. Y'all are rock stars.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So, before we end, sisters and brothers, my name is Greisa Martinez Rosas. I serve as the executive director of United We Dream Action and United We Dream Action PAC. And before we end, I want to make sure that we take a time to celebrate all of the hard work that all of you, all of our allies, all of our network has been in the last year. Throughout this election, United We Dream Action had the largest immigrant youth-led voter outreach in the history of our movement, in the history of United We Dream. And our power is undeniable. Stop. Our power is undeniable. Our young people and our members and our allies have been on phone calls until 10 p.m. at night, making calls for people. We have together created a political home for people to make sure that we were reaching out to one another. And in this moment of coronavirus, where it would have us feel siloed and separated, at United We Dream Action, we created community. We made phone calls, we texted folks, we kept each other energized to ensure that we mobilize voters at the polls. United We Dream Action was able to reach, wait for it, 1.6 million voters, and our PAC reached 683,000 voters in all of our work. The PAC was able to send over 649,000 texts and make over 132,000 calls. We sent over 2.7 million, yes, you heard million texts, and make over 795,000 calls. Lots of numbers, all big, all amazing. Our primary states for outreach have been in my home state of Texas, in Colorado, shout out to Colorado, and North Carolina and Arizona. But the thing that kept us going in those long nights and long days was the people, our people that were able to, for many of us, the first time, and for many of our folks, to be able to vote. For undocumented young people like myself that have DACA, it was our first time making calls to people and telling them, hey, like I can't vote, but you can. Make sure that you go out and do that. And all of these, we were able to tell the stories on MSNBC and CNN. You might have seen us in the Washington Post and Telemundo and Univision, Pop Sugar, BuzzFeed, you name it. We showed up because we know without any hesitation that we are here to stay, that our stories are valuable, and that we have an opportunity and a responsibility to call our people into actions. So we made sure that the stories of young people taking action were clear and front and center, so that let us not be confused. In the moment of victory where Joe Biden and Kamala Harris take the office here, it will be because of youth movements. It will be because of Black leadership. It will be because of undocumented immigrant young people like the ones that you've seen throughout the day today that delivered that victory. It is and it will be a movement victory. Without these opportunities and interventions, we wouldn't have been able to tell the stories of first-time voters like Teddy, like Cristina, Christopher, Yuritsi, Jasmine. We all saw you, and I can be one of those people that says that I saw them on repeat, because every time I heard it, every time I saw our families, I knew in my heart that we were in the right pathway. And so it's so important for all of our people to cast their votes, to keep our families together, to keep our families active. And we told these stories proudly because we know that they are magic and that they have power. That these are the stories that will define our generation and will help us build a world that is truly worthy of our needs and our dreams and our aspirations. As we've heard in the last couple of hours, our commitment, yours and I's, is to our people. We need to turn out, we need to vote to stop Trump, and we will keep fighting until our communities have justice. We want to make sure that we're protecting DACA and TPS. They're just the floor, though. They're just the starting point of what immigrant young people and our families need. We need and we must and we will defund and abolish ICE and CBP. We will ensure that all people, regardless of immigration status, are included in COVID-19 relief. Today, we vote. People across the country are making their voices known. But tomorrow and today, we organize, because we know that regardless of who wins, we've got a long way to go until we are able to live on the freedom side in a world where we are all free to move and free to stay. So, as we close into this moment, there might be moments tonight where you feel a little bit of fear, a little bit of anxiety about, like, what will this all mean for me and for my family? And I want you to know that those feelings are valid. They're valid. It is a confirmation that you are a human being with complex emotions. And on the other side of them, you should know that you're not alone, that you're not the only person going through that. Sometimes I feel that too. But you found us, you found United We Dream Action, and you should know that you're not alone, that there's a community of millions of young people out there that know exactly what it feels like to live in this moment, and will be there no matter what, November 4th, November 5th, November 6th, into the future. Because sisters and brothers and siblings, what we are doing in this moment is for the next generation of people that will come after us. So I want to thank all of you for joining us in this live stream, to Tomas and Serena for holding it down, for Sheridan, Sadie, Nestor, all of our fam that has been really working hard to make sure that we had this moment for all of us. Thank you. We see you. As a final reminder, just watch out that like we won't probably not get official results tonight. It will take some time, just like all good things do. And don't let anyone fool you or your friends or your family. So make sure that you're texting, grab your phone and text disinfo to 877-877 to get the link to our WhatsApp group, where you can receive even more content to make sure that we're combating disinformation. So that, again, the keyword is disinfo, DISINFO, to 877-877 to receive contact to combat disinformation. Quería decirles que este es un momento muy claro para nuestro movimiento, que si Biden y la señora Harris ganan es por el movimiento de los jóvenes indocumentados, por el movimiento de las personas negras que han liderado un movimiento que dice muy claro que tenemos que seguir luchando para nuestra justicia racial en este país. Y como United We Dream Action estamos entusiasmados por haber tenido este momento y les pedimos que no se rajen, que estén con nosotros, que no están solos y que se unan a nuestro movimiento. Si necesitan más información, manden un mensaje al 877-877 con las letras DISINFO para obtener más información. With anything, no matter what, we will protect each other because we know that we're here to stay and our home is here. With that, I'll say thank you and goodbye. Have a great day, everyone.
In moments like these, when social media becomes a news platform, it is up to us to use it the right way. We all see voter suppression and intimidation tactics happening right before our eyes, and we cannot be silent. Often, the way we share information can be used to harm our very own communities. But there are many things you can do to stop the spread of disinformation. Share with context. Do not generalize. Tell us what, when, and where it happened. When you read something that makes you emotional, pause and breathe. Wait before reposting. Be aware of the space you take up. Let's uplift Black and brown leaders and Black and brown issues. And finally, post for the people. We must be resilient and unified. Don't post anything promoting racism, discrimination, or inaction. We all play a very important role, so do your part to stop the spread of disinformation. In moments like these, when social media becomes a news platform, it is up to us to use it the right way. We all see voter suppression and intimidation tactics happening right before our eyes, and we cannot be silent. Often, the way we share information can be used to harm our very own communities. But there are many things you can do to stop the spread of disinformation. Share with context. Do not generalize. Tell us what, when, and where it happened. When you read something that makes you emotional, pause and breathe. Wait before reposting. Be aware of the space you take up. Let's uplift Black and brown leaders and Black and brown issues. And finally, post for the people. We must be resilient and unified. Don't post anything promoting racism, discrimination, or inaction. We all play a very important role, so do your part to stop the spread of disinformation.
This election is our future, and every single voice counts. My name is Jasmine. I'm 19.
In moments like these, when social media becomes a news platform, it is up to us to use it the right way. We all see
this election is our future, and every single voice counts. My name is Jasmine. I'm 19, and I'm from Houston. This election with the Here to Stay squad, we were able to text bank and phone bank to get people to go out to the polls. One specific conversation I had with this lady, I was able to talk to her and show her that every vote is important. And not only did I convince her to go out to vote, but I convinced her to talk to her other friends and families to get them to go out to the polls as well. Immigration was a big topic. As a child of 2 immigrants, I wanted to make sure that not just my parents were protected, but that every other immigrant family was protected in Houston. Our generation has been a generation of change. We've been pushing people, whether it's out protesting, social media, going out to vote ourselves. It was an amazing experience to finally be able to go out to the polls with my dad and my mom and to have our voices heard. My community can't vote to stop Donald Trump, but you and I can. This election...
One of my favorite things to do is come to the beach, skate on the beach, and just use the beach as my escape from the crazy world that we're living in. My name is Lorena, and I grew up here in Miami, Florida. I'm really proud to have been a part of the largest electoral program ran by immigrant youth. Immigrant youth like me are making our voices heard. We're making sure we're texting voters, we're making sure we're calling voters, and we're sharing our story. Some of the highlights that I have from texting voters is knowing that they already voted. Not only is this person telling me, hey, I already voted and they already did their part, but also just reminding me that people care about what is going on. They care about the issues that their communities are facing. I know that through my voice, I can make an impact. I know that doing what I can, even if I can't vote, means getting somebody else to vote. If you care about immigrants, supporting the right administration is huge. We have to make sure that we get Trump out. We have to make sure that we put somebody in office who's gonna help our immigrant community, who's gonna back us up, who's gonna be on the right side of history.